from Texas.
Secretary Graham, I'm going to come back to you. Thank you for your time once again. I want to revisit the notion of how this process begins. Is it customary for the Department of Education to sit on requests by letter from this committee and wait until they receive a subpoena to respond with documents?
Thank you, and I actually left my light on this time. So the department has been engaged with this committee for over a year with responsive documents that culminated in our March 1st response to the subpoena, which was over 1,000+ pages, over 300 documents. And we will continue to engage in that process, working with the committee, and look forward to that opportunity.
So going forward, I hear your commitment to respond to informal requests so that we don't have to get to the point of a subpoena request. Is that your commitment?
We look forward to working together with the committee, which we have been doing for over a year now, and very glad.
That really doesn't give me a good fuzzy feeling when you respond like that. I think that was a fair request for your commitment to respond to requests by an informal manner, as you indicated earlier you would do in good faith through the process of accommodation to accommodate the requests of this committee. Would you commit to that?
And the good news, Congressman, is that we have another opportunity to do that on Tuesday, and thankful for the opportunity to work together with your team.
As part of the good faith process to, in particularly, look at the redacted documents that we see back here and others that are redacted, how do you foresee that that's going to happen moving forward to determine whether or not these redactions are appropriate and which ones should or shouldn't be redacted and which ones should be more fully disclosed?
Well, that's part of the ongoing accommodation and compromise process that we've been engaged in and look forward to continuing to be engaged in.
And forgive my ignorance. Again, I'm brand new, and I'm new to the game of producing documents in Congress, but I would assume, you know, in the judicial process, you're going to have an in-camera review, and somebody's going to say, yes, this should or shouldn't be redacted, or yes, this should or shouldn't be produced. So is that what's going to happen when we leave here today? You're going to allow somebody from the committee or somebody from the staff of the committee to look at what's behind the redactions and to work through whether or not that should or shouldn't be redacted?
The technical aspects of our more than 1,000 pages of substantive documents pursuant to the subpoena, certainly something that could be discussed during the accommodations process.
Well, certainly, I got to believe this is not your first time to go down a production of documents issue. How does it normally work? I'm just curious. How does it work when you say, well, we're going to work with the committee in good faith to determine whether or not these redactions are appropriate or not? How are we to determine that if we can't see what's behind the redaction?
It's part of the ongoing conversation that we are having, and
I'm trying to figure out what the conversation is going to be. Are you going to tell us what's behind there? Am I going to get to know? Is some member of the committee going to get to know? Or are you just going to say, trust us, it should be redacted?
we will continue to have those conversations about any of the issues that have been raised today by members of this committee on both sides of the aisle. That is my commitment as the Assistant Secretary for the Office of Legislation and Congressional Affairs.
I read into your answer that I'm never going to know what's behind those redactions, and neither is the American public, and that really concerns me. Again, I want to go back to the good faith accommodation issue that you guys have both talked about today. All this stuff is redacted, and it seems to be unilaterally decided on your end of the spectrum. I want to know what's behind the redactions and whether or not the American people should see that, and in fact, they should see that.
Congressman, again, the redacted components of our production are deliberative process, attorney-client privilege, and/or personal information.
Do you have any employees, let's talk about supplementation. I just have a minute. Do you have any employees specifically dedicated to the continued production of these documents?
Congressman, we have a team that is working very diligently to meet the requests that we receive from this committee, and we will continue to do so.
In the Department of Education, in your segment of the Department of Education, you have somebody you're going to go back to and say, look, you're responsible for figuring out if there's any more to produce. Is there somebody else that we need to have here to answer questions?
That process will continue, and again, look forward to having the opportunity next week and following weeks to answer any questions you have. I'm happy to take anything back.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.